Hey there, we're ready for part 4 of an introduction to Google Sites, and in this session we're going to talk about embedding Google content. So far we have talked about how to insert objects through the insert menu, and we looked at that through the editor under Common and Gadgets, but now we're going to move on to this next area, which is the Google area. So I'm going to go to the project gallery page, which I have designated to be for this specific purpose. And on the project gallery page, I'm going to go into the editing mode here, and we're going to take a look at some of these other options. Now, there are some very important things to note when you get ready to embed Google content, especially if you're in a Google Apps for Education school, because probably a lot of your stuff is automatically set to not be shared. So let me pop over here to my Google Drive, and you can see here that I have some folders that have little heads on them. And those folders are shared either with me or I've shared them with other people. For instance, here someone shared this one with me. Here I'm the owner of these, and I have shared them as well. Let's just take a look at this folder. This is a folder that has a bunch of my example projects from Photoshop, because I teach a Photoshop graphic class. And so it's all in here. And you can see that the other day I changed the permission on this, because this folder was anyone in the Jackson domain could use it, could view it, and now anyone anywhere, there's a little globe here, can access that. So I've made changes to that folder, and that's why this folder has a little head on there. Okay. And when I click on that, you'll see the little head there. If I point there, you can see it says public on the web, anyone can find and view. However, I just created this other random folder. I called it bad folder for fun. If I double click this folder, it has some serial in it, and there is no share option here. So this folder has not been shared with anybody. And if I click over here, you can see that there are no sharing settings or anything that show that this document is being shared. And there's really nothing that you can see from here, to be quite frank. However, if you go back out here and you right-click the folder, you can then see the sharing options. And if I click on share, right now it's not shared with anybody. So if I click on advanced, it says private. I'm going to leave it private for now because I just want you to see what happens if you try to utilize objects that are indeed not shared on your Google site. So back to my project gallery. First off, I'm just going to insert one of those images from the serial. So I'm going to go to insert, and then in my Google section way over here, if it's an object that's on your Google Drive, you would point to Drive, and then you would go to wherever it is. So this is an image, and you've got to decide where it's going to look from. Right, mine right now is looking at all kinds of things that are on my Google Drive, but you can find the serial, and I'll choose this one and put it in there. And there it is, pretty big, so let's make it small. So it's, nice and fun. All right, so there we go. I'm going to hit save, and as far as I know, right, everything's well with the world at this moment. However, I have an Internet Explorer window open that I'm not logged into my Google account on. And how can we tell? Well, because at the top here in Chrome, you can see my name, and there's all these editing buttons. And here in Internet Explorer, you can see nothing because I'm not logged in. So let me go ahead and go to Project Gallery. And notice that I have a broken image. And if I click on that image to try to load it, it's going to ask me to log in. And it wants my Jackson email address because only people only me can actually see this. So this is what's going to happen. And a lot of times people don't realize that because they're always logged into their Google. And so they create something and then they share it to someone and then they can't see any of it. So you can see that this is a big problem. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive, and for my bad folder here, I'm going to go ahead and go to share, and I'm going to go to advanced, and now I'm going to change this. So now anyone public on the web can find it and see that picture. Okay, and you can specify it to only be certain people or whatever. You just want them to be able to view it. You don't want them to be able to edit or anything. So I'm going to click on save, and I'm going to click on done, and now I've got a little head in there, and so hopefully that means that that's updated. So if I hit refresh now, there we go. My serial works. So I always advise people to log out and test your projects if you create them in Google Sites, because sometimes they are not visible to public, and if you want them to be, then certainly that's something that you've got to do in advance. All right, now I'm not going to leave that serial there, so I'm going to go back to edit mode here. Oops, I just hit create page. Sorry, cancel. I'm going to go back to edit mode, and I am going to get rid of this picture indeed, but I am going to create a gallery of stuff. So remember a minute ago I just showed you this folder that has all of these projects in it. What if I want to create a photo gallery, but I don't want to have to insert each picture individually, because that would be time consuming. So you want to create a folder and make sure that folder has been shared publicly. And then you're able to insert a drive folder. So when you come up to insert and you go to your Google section, you go to drive, instead of choosing a specific item, you're actually going to choose folder. So I've got that. I've got to find the right folder, and it's this one here. So I click the folder and hit select. And again, I can choose to have a border around it. I'm not going to. I could choose to have a title. I'm not going to. And then you have the option between list and grid. I'm going to put it on list first just so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to hit save. Okay. And of course we can't really see anything yet, but I'm going to hit save. And then it should repopulate, and you can see there then we have a list. Well, this isn't super helpful because if somebody goes to my page, they still have to click on it and then wait for it to open up to be able to look at the picture, right? So let's go back to edit mode. Click on this and click the gear, which is what we do to edit anything that's in a little placeholder box. And this time I'm going to set it to display as a grid. And I hit save. It will repopulate the screen. And there, that's nice. You can see that it takes whatever the file is saved at and puts it right underneath the name of the file, or right underneath the thumbnail. And I can still, of course, click on the picture and take a look at it as well. But this is way cooler because we can actually see thumbnails of all the images, and I didn't have to insert every single one of those. So that's always cool, right, to not have to do all that extra work. Now you can add more than one to a page. Let's see if I can get a, I'll just add another one column thing here. And above this, I'm going to add some documents. So instead of an image that has, or a folder that has pictures in it, like this one does, I have a second folder here that has a Word document and a PDF document. So say your students are creating things that are not pictures, so things that are saved as PDF or a Word document or whatever, you could have them put those in a folder and dump them into a project gallery as well using the same method, insert. And I just think this is really cool because it makes it very nice for creating project galleries and portfolios. So I'm going to go to folder again. This time I'm going to choose the other folder. That's the number 2 folder. And certainly we're going to want to present this as a grid. And this time I'll just leave the border and stuff around it so you can see. Let's say PDF and Word projects. Let's say that all those are in a folder. And let's just go ahead and hit save here and see what it looks like. There we go. And so because I told it to leave the box, now we have a text at the top. We have a border around everything. There's a place to open this folder, which by the way there was on the other one as well. And now of course I can click on these, and just like the other it will open up and we can preview those Word documents or those PDF files straight within the Google site. So that's pretty cool. Nice way to populate a portfolio with lots of items at once. Again, if you did not like the appearance of the box, just click on that element and click on the gear, and then remove anything that you don't want from there. Or again, you could list it as a list. What a list will do is look like it just did with the images, where you can see the names of the items instead of the thumbnails of the items. But you can see an icon so you can tell what they are. That's good. Now, if we had created, back whenever we created the pages, a file cabinet page, a file cabinet page looks like this. It's going to have the name of the file and the modified date and all of that. However, a file cabinet page, you upload those documents straight to the Google site, not from the Google Drive. So doing it this way, these don't count against our allowed number of megabytes of storage. Doing it the other way, it indeed would. So again, this takes kind of an extra step because you have to have made a folder, you have to share the folder publicly to be able to use it, but it's pretty beneficial as well. So, and again, you can make any changes to that box through that gear. So if you don't like the way that looks, you can certainly pull anything off. Notice also it's a really tall box, so if you don't want it to be so tall, you could certainly change that. as well, so that your box doesn't take up so much space, especially if you had a lot of white space below it like I did there as well. Okay, so that's how to do a photo gallery or documents list from there. There are other items as well that you can insert from the Google list. Inserting a Google Calendar is also really cool if you have a calendar for your class or something that you want to insert, charts, pretty much anything that's saved in there. YouTube videos, obviously that's a pretty popular one. Instead of having to go through and embed, you just paste the URL of your YouTube video in there and tell it what size to display and whether you want that border or title, and you can insert a YouTube video. And then, of course, anything else that's from Drive, a drawing, a document, a folder, anything that you want to put in just specifically. Calendar is kind of cool because it's its own thing. It'll go to all of your calendars. But again, that calendar is going to be a problem if you do not have that calendar shared publicly. I'm just going to choose this holidays in the United States one, and I'm going to leave everything default just so you can see what it looks like. But this is kind of what a calendar is going to look like. It's going to take the whole calendar and put it in. And then you can see any dates that are added to that calendar. But again, you must have made your calendar shared publicly before you do this. We do this I'm a sponsor for Future Business Leaders of America group. So on our FBLA Google site page, we have an embedded calendar of all of our FBLA events. So people can access that very easily in the group. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that element, but that's simply how you insert a calendar, and then of course you can make all those changes from that gear. So this has been kind of a good introduction of how to insert Google objects, or rather embed Google content. And your biggest thing is just to remember that your Google content must be public, or when you're logged out, that content won't be visible to users.